Today is St. Patrick's Day. Look at that, I remembered this year. I personally like this day's aesthetic. Green is one of my favorite colors. Why green was the color chosen? I don't know, but I like it. Another green thing associated with that is leprechauns, who wear green. And everyone knows that leprechauns hide a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, which I have a few questions on. Has anyone told these leprechauns that rainbows are actually just illusions of light and are not actual physical things that you could hide stuff under? I mean, it would be pretty disastrous to have a humongous arch suddenly materialize out of thin air every time it rains and then the sun comes out. Can you imagine how terrible that would be? Everything that gets caught in it would just be like vaporized, turned into rainbows, which would probably be what happens because light is hot. If you're in a dark room with an umbrella, then you're going to be pretty cold because there's no light to shine and like cast the heat from the sun. But don't tell the leprechauns that, because then they could just hide their gold anywhere and we wouldn't have any idea where to look. That would make the job of leprechaun busters very difficult. What, you've never heard of leprechaun busters? They're like Ghostbusters, but instead of a vacuum cleaner, they have a metal detector. And what are you going to do when you find that pot of gold anyway? Trade it in for money? Who would you trade that sort of thing into? But let's say you do find someone who wants to buy the gold, like a geologist or something, and you show them the pot, and they're like, "Where'd you get all this gold from?" "Oh, I got it from a leprechaun." "No, you didn't get it from a leprechaun. Leprechauns don't exist." And then the guy who brought the gold gets arrested for stealing it, which is probably why Leprechaun Busters is a lot less successful than Ghostbusters. I can see the same problem with art thieves. I mean, what are those guys going to do once they actually steal the thing? You can't sit down at a restaurant, order your meal, and then say, "Can you make change for 2 Picassos?" Maybe that's why a lot of artists from the Renaissance period made giant stone sculptures instead of pieces of canvas with paint on them, because those are a whole lot harder to steal. And unlike dinosaur skeletons in the museum, you can't just steal a single part of it. If you're going in, you have to take the entire thing. Because otherwise, what's the point of even stealing it? If you break it, then it doesn't have any value. Another advantage that sculptures have over paintings is that they're way harder to reproduce. You can make a copy of a painting with just like a plain old copy machine, but for a big marble figure, there's really no way to copy that. Sure, 3D printing exists, but then the sculpture is going to be a whole lot lighter, therefore easier to steal, and easier to break. I wonder if those famous artists would have done anything differently if they knew that whatever crummy drawing they did would one day be worth millions of dollars. And I'm not talking crummy drawings like they're actual art pieces. I'm talking like just doodles that they did like maybe on a restaurant napkin. To answer my own question, I'd be pretty flattered if some crummy drawing I made was one day worth millions, even if I was already dead by that point. What would definitely not be flattering is seeing what the guy across from me was paying the waiter with. And that, my friend, is called a callback joke. This has been Billy Nacho's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Hello, welcome to Billy Nacho's Rant. And since today is raining and we can't be outside, I figured let's talk about a popular inside game. Uno, that game being, which is a card game that you've most likely played before, because it's one of the first things that come to most people's mind when you say card game. It's pretty simple to just pick up and play. You don't have to learn any, like, strategies, or really much of anything. You just kind of play cards and have fun. Though it's not as brain-dead simple as the card game War, which is not really so much of a card game as it is a card time waster. As the way you play War is, you split a plain old deck of playing cards across 2 people, and then you each take turns flipping over cards and seeing which one has the higher number. Great, we've got a basic competitive gameplay loop. Now all we have to do is add the parts to make it fun. That's what the card game designers said who did not create War. I mean, it's so barely a game. It's like the Chutes and Ladders of the card game world. And Chutes and Ladders is, I'm pretty sure, the worst board game ever created, as all you do is roll a dice and move that many spaces on the board. It's completely luck-based. You could roll all ones and never win, or you could roll a sequence of numbers so that you cross every single obstacle and win in like 10 turns, because there's like 100 spaces, and you can only move 6 a turn at maximum, so the game takes forever and doesn't go anywhere. Hey, at least the other contender for worst board game, Mousetrap, actually has an ending that it builds up to. Although, I've never really played an actual game of Mousetrap, because A, I couldn't find anyone dumb enough to play it with me, and B, what's the point when you could just watch the mousetrap go? It's not called Mousetrap for you to not set off the trap. So, I don't really even know how to play the game, but it can't be that exhilarating, huh? Oh, it's my turn, sorry. Enough talking about other games. Today's topic is Uno. And as I said earlier, there's not much strategy in Uno. Really, just play what you can, and hope that you get stuff that you can play. Because otherwise you have to draw more cards, and the whole point of the game is to play all your cards. I mean, there are some cool things you can do, like the skip card skips your opponent's turn, So if you're playing with two people, then you can skip, and then you get to play another card, as long as you have a card that can go, that matches the skip card that you just played. And the reverse card functions the same way with two people, because normally it reverses the order of the players, but since there's only two players, it reverses the order back to you. Sort of like a broken clock. Yeah, kind of like that. But since you're out of cards now, I guess you're gonna have to keep drawing cards until you can play one to match that. Well, sure, maybe, but you didn't say Uno when you had one card, so that means you have to draw two, and the game continues. Now, the cool thing about Uno is that there's not Uno Uno. There's actually a lot of different variations of Uno, which takes the simple concept and expands it by maybe adding an external device that gives you the cards, instead of having a deck like a normal person. Or adding new kinds of cards, changing old ones, flipping the rules, sometimes literally flipping the rules, because there's a version of Uno where the cards are double-sided, which I'm not sure how that would work, because then you could see the sides of the cards as the person's holding them up to your face. So, I'm sure they made it work. Alright, fine, you win. I guess I'm just really not good at this luck-based game. Well, turns out I was wrong about this being luck-based. I just haven't found the strategy. Alright, you wait right here. I'm gonna go get a better game. Hooray, it's spring now. Spring is the month that brings back all the green, and makes you wonder how you could have lived without it. The transition from summer to fall is very subtle. And then once it gets to winter, you realize, oh, I guess everything's gone. But from winter to spring, it's just like a really big leap. That pretty big leap was powered by something. That's why the season is called spring. I mean, spring marks a pretty big occasion. That means that there's only one season until summer. And then after summer, there's only 3 seasons until summer. At least that's how I count them. Not to say that the cold months aren't bad. No, they are good. I mean, it's just with so long between all this color in the environment, spring is welcome after months and months of just drab. Spring just puts that spring in your step and gives you that little bit of energy to continue through the year. Energy can be powered through a lot of ways, but like spring, green is pretty good. What is green energy? Well, it's energy that's green, like battery acid. Don't correct me, I'm just kidding. Green energy isn't actually the color green. It's more so the idea of green, which green being the color of the land on the planet, and therefore green energy is good for the planet, or at least not harmful. There are lots of different kinds of green energy, like solar panels, wind turbines, water wheels. Although water wheels work with water, and water isn't green like the land on Earth from space, so I guess water wheels are blue energy. But you don't hear too much about blue energy, which is probably why water wheels are the least popular of those three, because it's a bit harder to market. A pinwheel has 3 heads and 6 arms, while a wind turbine usually has 3 arms that spin around. Congratulations if you got that reference, but I'm not going to explain it for those who want to figure it out on their own. Anyway, wind turbines. I mean, they're pretty big. Like, really, really big. I've only ever seen them from a distance, but up close, they're like humongous. An entire skyscraper. Just a rotisserie. I also thought that wind turbines just spun and powered like a motor or something, but actually, they have like remote controls and stuff so that it can pivot towards the wind, so it's always powering something, and automatically turns off when the winds are too high, so that way the blades don't fly off and give someone an unexpected sunroof. These things are pretty high tech for what I thought was just a giant plastic toy. Wind turbines are also a member of the blue energy family, as sometimes they're put in the middle of oceans so as not to take up land, and they look pretty cool with rows and rows and rows of them just spinning in the distance. But the biggest disappointment about wind energy is that you can't have a fan powered by wind energy that's blowing into a wind turbine that's powering the fan, which is really disappointing to hear. Because of that darn law of conservation of energy, some of the energy that's going from the fan to the turbine will be converted into sound, thus being lost. And so eventually, the energy will be completely run out of the system and it won't be able to run efficiently. Well, really, the energy won't be lost because energy can't be created or destroyed. It'll just be converted into sound, which will be converted into something else later, I'm sure. As much as I like science, sometimes it's just a letdown. This has been Billy Necho's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Ma'am, you are probably wondering why I called you in here today. Well, I have been informed that there is a problem that needs to be addressed. This one small problem may not pertain to you, but, and don't get me wrong here, I have had allegations that you are a hippogriff. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant you're a hypocrite. I didn't mean you're a bird-headed flying horse. I meant that you're a hypocrite. Sorry. Where does this allegation of hypocrisy come from? Well, let me explain. You see, your job that you come and do almost every day is to stand alongside me and correct me if I make a mistake. You usually do a pretty good job with these corrections, but there is one slip up that I've been noticing. Your corrections are misspelled. And what's one of the most easy things to correct? Spelling. Therefore making you a hypocrite. It seems pretty messed up to correct my grammar and then not yours. Although I can see the difficulty in correcting someone mid-speech and not having a lot of time to do so. So I was maybe a little too harsh on you. A little bit. Though you will definitely need to improve on your spelling, as misspelling words is a sign of unprofessionalism, and that's not exactly a good thing to have. What? That sign on the wall? Oh, it says detective. Detective? Oh, come on, my only point ruined. Okay, fine. Maybe it was a bit ridiculous of me to call you out on your mistakes without checking mine. But just because I did that one time, this once, does not make me a hypocrite. Alright, a callback and appropriate response. Well, I guess that means you win. Will we be seeing each other tomorrow? Same time? I'm having a sneaking suspicion that this was not the most appropriate way to deliver this message. Hmm. Alright, today I have a really good topic. I'm not over-exaggerating. This one is really gonna knock your socks off. Today's topic for the rant is going to be... Hi, Flynn.
Am I interrupting something or have you not started yet?
No, I haven't started yet. Go ahead.
Alright, that's good, because I have a really good idea, and I think you're gonna like it. Ta-da! Here's my newest product.
That's not a product. That is a gun.
To the naked eye, it may look like a gun, but trust me, this is definitely not a gun. For this particular product, it's guaranteed to be as if I knocked the socks off of you after showing it.
Wait. More importantly, did you just turn a metaphor into a simile?
I don't want to be confusing people here. This particular device is not intended for violence as you first thought. It is rather a fun toy, and I will now describe how it works. You will see this ejector thingy at the top would not be on a normal gun, at least not on the top, because otherwise it would eject the hot thing right into your face, which is very stupid. So rather, the point of the game is to eject something out of the hole and then try to catch it back in. Now, in my demonstration, I will begin to play the game.
Oh, so that's all you do? You just launch the ball in the air and then catch it back again? In that case, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't sell it. I mean, it's a pretty decently designed thing. Although a concern might be the similarities to paddleball.
What the heck is paddleball?
You know, it's the game with the wooden paddle and the rubber ball and the string that you bounce up and down. You should know what it is. You're older than me.
How come you're the one who's always finding new ways to passively insult me? How dare you call me old? What year is it again?
It's 2022.
Alright then, maybe it was a little justified. But still, you should definitely think about what you say before you say it.
Yeah, that's good to remember. Speaking of remembering things, earlier I said that I had a great topic for today, which is... I actually don't remember. I thought about it too long before saying it. Maybe that think about what you say thing is more circumstantial than I thought. Anyway, I guess I'm just gonna end it here. About a week ago, I talked about Homer's The Odyssey, a strange book that was written by a guy who probably doesn't even exist. But this strange story has inspired countless people to write stories using these characters, the Greek gods and stuff. Last I talked about the story, I got to the part where he defeats the Cyclops, and then just ended it there. Because that's really as far as we read in English class. Because I thought, well, that was a pretty big fight, so it must have been the climax of the story. But no, weirder things do happen. After Odysseus' crew defeat the Cyclops, they land on an island, and on that island lives a witch named Circe. And this witch Circe, she has one magic power, and that is to turn humans into animals. So what kind of animals does she turn her enemies into? Well, pigs and chickens and stuff, of course. But then also, sometimes she turns them into lions and bears and chimpanzees, which was kind of poor planning. Oh, you're in combat with this person? Yeah, the easiest way to win is to turn them into a lion. So anyway, Circe turns one of Odysseus' guys into a pig, and Odysseus is pretty angry about that, so he goes up to confront her. And along the way, Hermes happens to show up, who is the god of, like, well, he's not really the god of anything, he's kind of just a fancy mailman, and he gives Odysseus this magic weed that when you chew it, it makes you immune to Circe's powers. And I'm pretty sure it's because that the plant poisons you. And how does that make any sense? Circe, come on, if you're gonna fight someone, you want them to be poisoned. You don't want them to be a lion. What were you thinking? But Odysseus ends up sparing her because he thinks that she's pretty or something. And then he and his crew spends time in like her temple, which turns out to have magic time abilities because they were only in there for like an hour or something, but they ended up being in there for 5 years, which definitely longer than an hour. So let me reiterate, this Circe has the ability to alter time, which would definitely be useful in battle, but instead chooses to change her enemies into dangerous animals. Brilliant. After finding out about this sudden time skip, Odysseus is very angry, and he tells Circe how he can get back to his home, because that's what he's been doing this entire time. He just wants to get home, but everything seems to be taking time measurements of years to get done. And that's pretty inconvenient, as you can imagine. So Circe tells him that the only person who knows how he can get back to his home is this prophet guy. And that's prophet like future seer, not prophet, Profit. And so this blind prophet guy, his name is, I think, Tiresias is how you pronounce it, but it's spelled Tiresias, so that's a cool sounding name. The only problem is that Tiresias has been dead for like a long time, and so Odysseus needs to go to the land of the dead to contact him. And at the time scale things are currently going, I'm guessing that this trip to the underworld is going to take 15 years, but apparently no, it only takes like 3 pages, which, sure. So he goes to the land of the dead, and he finds his mother, who died while he was away, which, unfortunate for him. But he ends up learning a bunch of information he already knows, like Poseidon really doesn't like him, and that this journey is going to be difficult, even though he's supposed to be at the end of the journey already. But he also ends up finding this guy who tells him, hey, you should really be wary of this flock of golden sheep, because if you hurt these flock of golden sheep, then bad things will happen to you. And so Odysseus just walks out of the land of the dead and returns to Circe and tells her all the things that he learned in there. Which, by the way, this entire section of the story is just a flashback. Odysseus has already gotten back to this king guy, and he's telling him about his travels and stuff. And so that would mean that he's telling the king about how he told Circe about the land of the dead, which he already told the king about. He's telling a story about telling a story that he already told. Brilliant. This Homer guy, if he was real, definitely deserves an award. Oh yeah, and the story was written by Homer. So this is a story told about a story told about a story told that already happened. Have fun analyzing that in English class. And now, Odysseus has to make a decision. He has 2 paths to sail down. One contains a giant sea monster that, for some reason, only kills 6 people at a time. The other contains a even bigger sea monster that kills all the people all the time. So obviously, he takes the less dangerous path. And that monster is called Scylla. Obviously, this creature's name is pronounced Scylla. Wrong, it is actually pronounced Scylla, which I'm not even going to question. It seems these Greek monster names didn't translate well into English. So the thing with Scylla is that it takes 6 people from each boat. And what does Odysseus do to prepare for this? Absolutely nothing. Now listen up, Odysseus. Here's what you do. First, you make a bunch of decoy people, and you put them on the boat. So that way, Scylla can't differentiate between the decoys and the real people, because it's such a big thing that you're really small to it, so it probably can't tell the difference. So that way, when it goes to attack people, it has a higher chance of not actually hurting anyone. But hey, wait a second, Billy. Wouldn't the Scylla taste that it wasn't eating real people, and then chase the boat down? Well, here's my reason. I don't think that it takes 6 people from each boat because that's all it wants. I think it can only take 6 people from each boat because it's so slow that it only has enough time for each of the heads to attack once. But anyway, Odysseus doesn't take my advice and instead goes in with nothing, and 6 people die. Oh well. So that was part 2 of the Odyssey, and just like part 1, people were pretty dumb. But it seems that Odysseus has been getting dumber as well, because he had a really smart idea for taking out the Cyclops, but the sea monster, he just kind of took a break with that one. Oh wait, no, there's one more thing I forgot. Along the same passageway that had this Scylla and the other thing, there were also sirens. And sirens, if you don't know, are bird ladies that have a singing voice that's either so good or so bad it causes people to crash their ships. No one knows for sure which one it is really, because no one survived the siren song, but Odysseus has a plan for the sirens, unlike the Scylla. He puts earwax in everyone's ears so that they can't hear it, and instead ties himself to the mast of the boat so that he can hear the song. He ties himself to the boat so that he won't accidentally fall off once he hears the siren song and is hypnotized by it. Because apparently these sirens haven't thought to just actually attack people and not just sing to them. Oh, and then Odysseus' crew encounters the flock of golden sheep, and they kill the sheep, and everyone dies. The end. But with that quick detail being added, because I know I'll be in a bit of trouble if I forgot about that, this has been Billy Nutch's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed.
Hello friends and welcome to the Untitled Chapter. As today is April 1st, today we'll be once again discussing Dark Souls. Yeah, I guess that would not be good for audio.
Hello, welcome to Billionaire's Rant. Today is April Fool's Day, so we will once again be discussing Dark Souls. Most people on April Fool's Day on the internet rickroll people, or share joke projects, but no, this is 100% serious. After all, we're in the most serious game in the series, Dark Souls 2. Most of you didn't get the joke, but it's not. And that's why I like Dark Souls 2, because it doesn't take itself too seriously. It can have some fun with giant tadpole monsters, or the swamp preceding the giant tadpole monster. People familiar with Dark Souls 2 are now debating over which swamp and tadpole monster I was talking about, as there are two, because the game's just that serious. Back on the subject of April Fools, the website that you may or may not be watching this on has just had its April Fools update today. With it includes a new mode menu, which, while dropping it down, gives you various different filters to put over your experience, such as the 90s filter, which makes the background stars and distorts the color, or the old-timey filter, which makes everything kind of that paper gray color and puts a film grain on. Very creative. There's also the prehistoric filter, which replaces your mouse with a big torch and makes the screen dark so you can only see where your mouse is. Almost as if they knew I was going to talk about Dark Souls. Oh right, I'm supposed to be doing that. Well, since I don't want to alienate my audience, I've decided that I'm not going to talk about Dark Souls that much. Because if you've never played or heard of the game before, then you don't care. And I want people to care. So, April Fools. I don't actually care that you don't care. I'm doing this for the people who do care. However, I won't be talking about Elden Ring, because that game's so new I haven't even finished it yet. So, therefore, I'm legally not allowed to have any opinions on it. But there you go. Those were my opinions in 2 seconds. I assume it's impossible to decipher that audio, as it's sped up so fast that slowing it down would pretty much do nothing. So there's an unsped up version inside of this project if you're wondering. If you're watching on YouTube, well, then you just won't get to hear it. Now there are two parts of Dark Souls' title, Dark and Souls. Dark is obviously referring to the game's tone, which, while it can be comical at times, most of the time, all the characters are like, I'm so sad with this world, everyone is dying. And Souls is referring to the game's currency, where you steal the souls of your enemies and exchange them for stuff. So therefore, in universe, the game is called Sad Money. In real life, the sad money is referring to the people who bought Elden Ring, thinking that it would be a good beginner's point for the franchise, and then getting destroyed in the first 5 minutes and refunding it. I'm sure souls are also important to the game's story, but I don't care. Speaking of the game's story, a lot of people were disappointed that the Souls games tell their story through item descriptions, which I don't think is entirely true, as most of the item descriptions are just talking about some character that you never get to meet in the game, or at least in Dark Souls 1. Like most of the pyromancy items, I have no idea who they're talking about half the time, because that person never shows up in the game. So it's just kind of stating that this person used to own the thing, but how does that contribute to anything? I don't care. Imagine you're going to a secondhand store, and you pick out a nice pair of pants, and then you bring it home, and then on the tag, instead of saying like the size and stuff, it has an entire biography about the person who last owned the pants. No, my friends. Dark Souls' story is told in the 5-minute cutscene at the beginning of the game that shows off all the bad guys. So by the time you meet them, you recognize them and ask if they'd like a battle axe to their face. Notice how I didn't say, and then you ask them a question, because that joke is so overused, it's basically, emaciated by this point. And if you thought that that joke wasn't funny, I'm not going to shield you from the truth, but that's just kind of the comedy I like. However, jokes like that does make it hard to get a night grip on your audience. But I don't want this joke to ancient drag on any longer than it already has. So with that being said, this has been Billy Nacho's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Tabs. The things you open on your computer to open new things. If you're watching this on a computer and have things open, how many do you have? 1, 2, 3? I, personally, am the guy who doesn't like to have too many tabs open, because looking up at the top of my screen and seeing all those separate boxes, well, it just makes me really angry, because, of course, those other tabs are going to slow down the tab that I'm currently using, which is not entirely true, but that's just what goes on in my head. But of course, I know that there are also people who like having a lot of tabs open so they can quickly switch between things, and I can definitely see the perks of that. But what I did not know is that on Google, and maybe other browsers too, but I can't check that, there are actually a lot of tools to help people who have tabs open all the time. I've never really bothered to check out the right-click menu for a tab, so I recently did, and there's actually a lot of cool stuff. Let's go through them. And obviously, I'm not going to talk about the right-click menu components that just help with people who don't have a keyboard for some reason, because I really don't care about those, because I have a keyboard. This first right-click menu feature actually helps with my main problem with tabs. They're very expendable. Why bother keeping a bunch of them open if I can accidentally click the X button and then it's just gone forever. Well, there's a little thing called pin tab, and what that does is that it takes the tab, moves it all the way to the left, and deletes the X button. So the only way to close that tab now is with Control W. Or if you're that one guy who doesn't have a keyboard and for some reason is only using a mouse, then you can just use the right click menu for the tab. But why? Why do you have a computer if you don't have a keyboard? Did you lose it somewhere? Did the middle part of your laptop fall out and now you just have a trackpad and a screen? What happened, man? And sure, pinning tabs is cool, but there's an even cooler feature that's actually really difficult to spot because it's grouped with a whole bunch of not cool features. By not cool, I don't mean that they're useless, they're just not cool. That feature is called Create New Tab Group. What a tab group is it's a group of tabs, kind of like a bookmark bar, bookmark folder, but instead it's a tab folder. And this tab folder can be opened and closed, and while it's closed, it prevents the tabs from accidentally being X'd, which is incredibly useful. And with that knowledge, you're probably thinking, whoa, can I make a group of pin tabs so that they're double non-Xable? And the answer is unfortunately no. You can add that tab to a group, but then it'll just unpin itself. Quite unfortunate. There's also an option to color code tab groups by right-clicking and then just clicking on one of the few colors. There aren't many colors, not even every color in the rainbow, but I guess they're pretty decent colors. Oh wait, sorry, correction. There is every color in the rainbow, plus cyan. Yep, cyan is just there. Every single other one is a rainbow color, except cyan. And pink, but you can just substitute pink as like one of the 3 different purples that's in the rainbow. There's like purple, violet, magenta. Two of those I think are in the rainbow. I'm not sure about violet. But the rainbow has 2 copies of purple and only 1 blue. So get out of here, cyan. Unless you could argue that cyan is a green, in which case the rainbow still doesn't have room for another green. It already has a good green. But I'm pretty sure most people say that cyan is blue-green and not green-blue. Because I'm pretty sure that green-blue and blue-green are 2 different colors, one of which may be cyan, but then again, violet, purple, and magenta, I'm pretty sure one of those is a synonym for the other, but I just can't figure it out. Rainbow color, normal color, and then crazy made-up Crayola color names can get pretty confusing, which is why the only rainbow colors you're looking at right now are green, yellow, blue, and purple. Wait, is that purple? No, that's definitely pink, which is not part of the rainbow, unless pink is magenta or violet. Also including the fact that the one it is has to be the one that's in the rainbow, because one of them isn't in the rainbow. Unless they're both in the rainbow and purple is just like a made-up mixture of the 2, though I'm pretty sure that's not correct. Before I confuse myself anymore, this has been Billy Natchel's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Here's something cool I just realized. Pressing Control F on the keyboard brings up a little search box, and then you can search on the page that you're on. Hey, wait a minute. That's not the thing I just realized. Don't worry, I'm not that dumb. On some websites, when you press Control F and then search for something, it highlights it all in yellow. Well, not on some websites, on all websites, but on some websites, it also changes something to the right. Should the website you are Control Fing on have a scroll bar to the right, then you may notice something weird with it. The scroll bar has the same highlights as the word that you're searching for, which I always found strange. For some reason, I always thought that it was like a glitch, and that the scroll bar, for some reason, always contained every single character on the keyboard, and then it would just move those characters into place as the website loaded in. I don't know why I thought that, but that's just what I assumed. Isn't it weird that letters and numbers on a keyboard are called characters? I mean, they aren't really characters. I guess you could use them to create characters by stringing them together, but none of them really have much of a personality. Although if you look hard, you can kind of see some things. If you look closely at the squiggly and symbol that you get by pressing Shift 7, then you can kind of see that it sort of looks like a snowman with a cane. A candy cane. There's another strange quirk about the keyboard. Usually pressing Shift will cause the buttons to switch from inputting the thing on below to the thing on top. So how come normally, when I click Caps Lock, it doesn't lock? And when I press Shift Caps Lock, it doesn't cap. Same thing with num lock. What if I need to num something? Also, Shift 4 makes a $sign. So here's a question. Do keyboards in England have a pound sign instead? Or does that particular button just work nationally, where, depends on where you press it, it puts the symbol of that country's currency? In which case, I'd like to have a go and press it in Antarctica. I wonder what will happen. But back on the topic of highlighted scroll wheel, which was what I was talking about before. Turns out the highlighter marks on the scroll bar is actually showing where you can see those highlights in the document that you're viewing, which is really cool. I didn't know that the scroll bar actually represented your view distance. I never knew it was an actual like ratio of the page that you're looking at. I thought it just increased and decreased to tell you how long the thing that you're looking at is. So if you go to a website where these scroll bar rules apply and you press Control F spacebar, then congratulations, you've unlocked the secret tiger scroll bar. Scroll bar tiger species are the complete opposite of real ones. While in real life, orange tigers are more common than white tigers, in the scroll bar universe, white tigers are infinitely more common than orange tigers. You watching right now probably have a tab open that has white tiger scroll bar. That's pretty lame, to be honest. Everyone uses white tiger. Why not switch over to orange? Just once, just try it out. However, back on the topic of keyboards, there are still a lot of buttons on the keyboard that I have no idea what they do. And some of them are pretty stupid. Like, for example, on this particular keyboard, there's a button, and the icon is just a rectangle with white stripes. And when I click it, it pulls up the right click menu without me having to right click. Is this for those mouseless people? I talked about mouseless people last time, and how I didn't really see how that makes any sense, really. But now that I discovered the whole tiger thing, it kind of makes sense. The reason why mouse people are rare is because people who use orange tiger mode are also rare. And apparently, orange tigers eat mice. So the orange tiger ate the mouse, and now they don't have a mouse, so they have to use these stupid redundant buttons. So maybe orange tiger mode isn't exactly the best. I'm very glad I figured that out ahead of time, so that I can correct any future people from losing their mice. Also, if I didn't have a mouse, I couldn't click the button that allows me to say, "This has been Billy Nacho's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed." I've been thinking about something. A particular word that I've never heard before, and that I've never used, but I knew it was a word. Until recently, when I found out it wasn't a word. And although a situation has never come about where I needed to use this word, still I was considering eventually using it, but it turns out it's not even a real word. A few days ago, I looked up the word to see how it was spelled, so that if I needed to use it in, like, writing form, then I'd have that ability in my linguistic repertoire. I'm wondering why people don't watch the show, and then I realize I use phrases like linguistic repertoire. Anyway, the word. You're probably wondering what it is. And believe me, I'd tell you. I'd tell you without hesitation. Because I'd like to know if one person out there in this world who just happens to watch this show, despite the fact that I use phrases like linguistic repertoire, has ever contemplated using this word. But I really only feel like saying the word once, and Jelly isn't here yet, so I don't want to repeat it for her. So I guess I'm just gonna have to wait a minute. Fun fact, while looking up this word and trying to spell it correctly, because every time I spelled it, it wouldn't bring up any results, because I didn't know it at the time, but it's not a real word. While trying to spell it, I played some other spelling games with myself. One of which is a fun game called How Many Attempts Will It Take for Me to Spell Medulla Oblongata Correctly? Should you be wondering, it took me 5 attempts to spell medulla oblongata correctly. Medulla oblongata. And that's actually kind of a funny coincidence because the first result in the Google's People Also Ask category was, what are the 5 functions of the medulla oblongata? So that's a fun little coincidence. Speaking of Google's People Also Ask category, it's kind of a strange feature because you open one of the questions to see the answer, and then it opens like 3 other questions for some reason, which may or may not be related to the first one. But they're usually all in the same like category. But if you keep opening more and more of them, eventually you'll get completely off topic. You'd have to be a pretty big jerk to go off topic. Also, while trying to figure out the spelling of this word, which doesn't exist, I use the microphone search feature, where you click the microphone button, and then you say what you want to search, and it searches it for you. So I said the word, and it misinterpreted what I was saying as both are Geminis. Not even close. Although that could give you a hint to what the word is. Yep, there's your one hint. It is not pronounced like both are Geminis. That rules out such words as, re-oestrogenicize? Yes, that rules out re-oestrogenicize as what the mystery word could possibly be. Which really brings our numbers down -1, as re-oestrogenicize is not a real word. And I made it up on the spot, which apparently I'm pretty good at doing, as the mystery word is pronounced. Oh, hi, Jelly. I was just about to say a mystery word that I was not sure how to spell, because it's not a real word, but I'd like to know how to spell it anyway. Are you up for that? Alright, here we go. The mystery word is letharginize. What? I just thought it was the verb form of lethargic. Letharginize. To make something lethargic. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Letharginize? Eyes usually implies the changing of one thing to another, right? Digitize. You make something digital. Letharginize. You make something lethargic. So why isn't it a word? How come when I flip through the L section of the dictionary, which is not a thing I do very often, but if I were to do that, how come I wouldn't find letharginize? What makes that less valid of a word than any other word? It's perfectly good. You know what? I'm shocked. I did not expect you to not be in support of my new word. I thought you'd call up the dictionary people straight away and tell them, yo, put letharginize in your big book thing, if print dictionaries are even still a thing. But no, you don't like the word. Is it because there's almost no situation on which letharginize would be a word that people would use? Is that just because it's rare? Because there are plenty of rare words in the dictionary that I'm sure less than 1% of people have ever used. Here, watch me use it in a sentence right now. Billy Nut Joe letharginized the word letharginized by making the letharginized joke go on too long. Which then caused him to say, "This has been Billy Nut Joe's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed."